Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on Werewolf the Apocalypse in the World of Darkness. When we last left off, we finished talking about spirits, and today we're going to talk about the systems of gameplay. And of course, one of the more important systems, experience points. Increasing and improving your character. So the sheer fact is that we as human beings, throughout our lives, learn things. We learn things, of course, by studying, experiencing them, going along. What the actions that we do, the things we do, teach us stuff. And werewolves are quite similar to us humans. They learn from their experiences and what they do. Now, when it comes to the actual game, your characters and you are going to learn things over the course of the game. Some of this information that you learn, of course, can be jotted down on your character sheet. Names, places, bits of information that are important to know, that's learning. But that's not the only thing your character may learn. There is plenty of things your characters might experience and learn that can't be written down on a character sheet. They cannot be expressed in such a way. And that's where we're diving into the experience point system. At the end of every story, your storyteller will assign your characters experience points. Now, traditionally, the amount of experience points your characters will gain will be the same between all the players in the group, in the troupe. Not always, but most of the time. You just have to record these experience points on your character sheet. There'll be a place for them. Then, you're going to use these experience points you spent to increase your traits. Simple as that. You're going to increase the traits on your character sheet. Now, the cost of raising all the different traits on your character sheet varies completely from trait type to trait type. But the majority of them are going to be effectively a multiplication. Whatever your current rating is, multiplied by something. Whether it's times 2, times 3, times 4, higher than that. Whatever it is, it will tell you current rating times this multiple to raise that trait from the level you are, from the dots you're at, to the next one up, to give it by 1. So you will have to know some multiplication for this game. Sorry. Now, if you do not have the trait you want to raise, there is a section in the chart, which you can see in the book, of new ability. Effectively, it costs you a certain amount of points to get a new ability. What is important here to note is that any trait you have on your character sheet, you can only raise by 1 dot per story. Any trait you have. So it doesn't matter how many traits you raise in the course of that story, that single trait can only be raised by 1 per story. Now the fact is that traits just don't get raised. That's not something that makes sense in the storyline. Your character is going to experience many different things in the course of the stories that they have. The traits that they raise should reflect their experiences in the course of the story, or things that they could have possibly learned in the course of the story. It should be weaved into the storyline that you're learning something. Granted, you could be learning a new trait whatsoever. You might just want to mention, oh, I'm also studying this on the side at the beginning of the story. That means there might be opportunities to show off that you're learning that, or to tweak that you're learning that, to activate that the fact is, this is what I'm learning in the course of the game, and that is why I am getting better at it. I'm either getting a single dot in it, or I'm getting more dots in it. I'm improving it. And whatever kind of encounters you have, if you're trying out a trait that you have, and have great success on it, maybe you learn something from that that makes you better at it. Or maybe you had great failure at it, and you learned something from your mistakes. Both are opportunities that could definitely say, I'm learning something from this. More than perhaps just using it a lot during an adventure. That would be a good reason, too, that I used it a good fair amount over the course of my storyline. Things like willpower can be raised in this way. For that, you have done something that bolsters your self-confidence, makes you feel great about yourself, and ready to face the world some more. That's why traits that you're going to be raising have to make sense within the storyline itself. For whatever reason, whatever's going on in the story, whatever I've been doing in the story, has allowed me to reach this point in time where my experiences allowed me to. The experience point system should be used in such a way that it makes sense for your characters to get better at what they get better at. I learned about this in my experiences, or had a chance to study this in my experiences. I'm good at it now, or I'm better than I was a minute ago kind of thing. I've improved myself, and the story is reflecting that improvement. Now, when it comes to awarding experience points, you have to be careful. There's a fine line between giving advancements to your characters and maintaining the game balance that you have. If you award too many experience points, your characters might become too powerful too quickly for you to handle. On the other hand, if you give too few, they might feel underpowered for the advancement that they should be having over the course of the adventures. Finding that fine sweet spot is a difficulty. The same can sort of be said for awarding it to players. One of the main reasons you want to keep it relatively balanced and have everybody have the same is, well, balance between your characters. One or two here might not be a problem, but in the long run, if you start getting huge differences between experience points, it might make a huge difference between characters. So the first thing that you would do is look to the end of every chapter, basically every game session you have. At that point in time, you're going to award 1 to 5 experience points to your players. The first one you award is automatic. Everyone gets it for participating, for being part of the game session and being there. The next point you might want to award is for a learning curve. If your character and the player learn something effectively. If the player can go to you and basically say, this is what my character learned in today's session, they get a point. Now, role-playing. If they acted within their character, they can earn the role-playing point. The important part is that you have to have a kind of base standard that you're putting this at, and you really should ramp up this standard as you're going, that they are better and better meshing with what their character should be. Another thing you could very well do here is only award this to the person that roleplayed the best in the session. It is a possible option for you to do. Now, if the player acted within their concept quite well, you can award them a point. And the final one is, of course, heroics, where effectively you put yourself above others and help them out. An important part of the heroics is that you have to watch the actions of your characters carefully. The heroics award is a good kind of push to be heroic, but there's a very fine line between being heroic and being stupid. Putting yourself in harm's way in order to save people when it's a situation that either is like hopeless or they don't really need saving is not going to be heroic. It's going to be dumb. You're going to be being an idiot. But there are plenty of opportunities for you truly to be a hero and push yourself forth and help people and gain the heroics. Now, much like every chapter where you get points, every story you should get some awards to. You should get 1 to 3 experience points for the finishing of the storyline. The first one you're going to get is for victory in the storyline. Effectively, I accomplished all the goals and missions I need to do over the course of the adventure, and I get an experience point for that. Now, if the adventure, the mission itself had a particularly large amount of danger to it, great threats, you will want to also award them an additional experience points to make up for the fact that they overcame a greater threat, a greater danger to them than perhaps another group may have done in different storylines. And the final one is for wisdom. If character came up with a great idea or concept or something that helped out the pack and kind of drove the storyline forward, you should award them an experience for that one, that they showed great wisdom in the course of the entire adventure, the entire story. Now, you could very easily award more experience points at this point in time at the end of the story. It's up to you if you want to come up with some more categories that you feel are appropriate to the kind of stories that you're telling, and allow your characters to gain experience for those awards too. Again, it's down to that balancing issue of finding the fine line of how much you're awarding them and how much power they're gaining. Any kind of extra awards can actually vary from story to story. You could come up with ones that are specifically certain to various circumstances within a story. This award fits within this story and this story alone, so I could possibly earn it in this story. Now, let's talk about some of the traits that you can influence with your experience points, and talk about a few you can't. One of the major ones that you're not going to be spending experience to influence are backgrounds. You can't spend experience to increase or do anything to backgrounds. Backgrounds can change, though. Backgrounds change over the course of the story. Certain events may change the way that certain backgrounds work. If you have a number of contacts and guess what, one of them dies, you're going to lose a contact. On the other hand, if you roleplay a situation and develop a relationship with a NPC character over the course of a story, maybe you gained a new contact. It can be similar for every one of these, including things like resources, where you could, play the stock market, lose big, or go to Vegas, gamble big and win a lot. Both are possibilities of increasing or decreasing backgrounds. There's only one background that you can spend experience on, and that's totem. I'll talk about that in a minute. Effectively, it should be rare, but it could be a possibility that you as a player go to your storyteller and inquire whether or not you can raise a background, whether or not you feel like you've worked towards raising it. Now, raising a background shouldn't just be as simple as that. Effectively, what should happen as the storyteller, when looking at the background and seeing that it is being worked on, being changed, should effectively come up with a list of things that has to be accomplished for the background to alter. Granted, sometimes they may show this list to the player. They don't need to. I don't need to show this player the list of things they need to do to raise the background. Effectively, I could. It depends on the circumstances. I would have this list and see what they might need to develop a relationship specifically with someone, with this character here, to make him into a contact, if they're attempting to. I could say to them, okay, you're trying to develop him as a contact. Here's the things you might need to do. Or, they don't know. They're just going to have to try their best to figure it out. Certain backgrounds, it makes more sense for them to get an idea of what they need to know. Things like working within the renowned of the Garou society. They might have an idea of what they need to know to get a better position in the eyes of the Garou because of the societal norms and the cultural norms. On the other hand, things like people, you might not know the list of things you have to do to make that guy a contact because he's an individual, and you might not know what he likes or dislikes enough to build that. For the most part, the course of the storyline will alter backgrounds. They might choose to raise or lower one. And of course, most of the time that there's an effect that will change a background, will only raise it or lower it by 1 dot. There is exceptions though. There can be major groundbreaking, ground-shattering events that will cause changes in backgrounds to be 2 or more in either direction, either gain or loss. So it is possible for very big things to occur to really shatter, break up your backgrounds. But again, most of them are going to be changed 1 dot at a time when they change. Now, the one exception to this, of course, is the totem background, which you are allowed to spend experience to alter, to increase. This is another one that I would definitely encourage your players to, of course, reflect their raising of this totem into their storylines, to reflect the use of this experience point. Because just like the totem background is shared between the entire pack, every member can spend experience on it to raise it. So there is definitely correlations with some role-playing, some raising of it, and some working together, some teamwork between the players. Because it is a group thing. But that's it for today. So, we dove into the experience point systems of Werewolf. We talked about generally getting the experience. We talked about spending the experience. We talked about one of the things you can't spend experience on, but can change, backgrounds. In the next episode, we're going to dive deeper into some other things. Rage, Gnosis, and Willpower, which can all be altered over the course of the game. And then move on to talking about Renown and being awarded that. Because just as experience is very important, so is renown. But I hope you're having a good day. If you've had any interesting circumstances that has led to a background being changed for a character in a World of Darkness game, not just Werewolf, I'm willing to hear any World of Darkness game, where something has occurred that has changed one of your backgrounds, and it's something a little different than normal, a little unique. Let me know in the comments below. These are always the most interesting of stories, where unique things happen and change our backgrounds. But till the next time, I bid you farewell.